Springboks 61, Japan 7. And yet it felt like the Boks did not even get out of second gear. What a performance it is from the world champions. Once again, reaffirming that they are really in a golden run of form. They just look so comfortable. I mean, even then, the work being done, Don Human's chatting to Rassie Russ was probably assuring him that even though the scrums weren't maybe as good as we wanted them today, that we'll fix that. At the end of the day, the big thing is we are not happy with anything less than what we are seeing right now, which is the Boks playing at close to their best consistently and for a full 80 minutes as well. And when we look at the try scorers and the times the tries are scored, that will kind of show that as well. The fact that we are very much pushing for that 80-minute performance and that we are trying to make sure that we are as good and have the kind of energy in the first minute as we do in the 80th minute. And we're starting to really find that. Not to mention some of the experiments that worked today. I thought Zachary Porthen, pretty solid on debut. Andre Estesen coming on the flank with a big performance. A couple of players who maybe were under a bit of pressure stepping up today. And all around, you can't really complain about much, to be brutally honest, because it was that good of a performance. But if we look at the try scorers, and I mean, let's look at the timeline, shall we, and see exactly kind of what happened when. So we had, it all started very early, you have to go all the way back, and Siya Kolisi went over in the 4th minute with Sasha Faimagomazulu adding the extras. Then it was the Sasha show for that kind of 10-minute period, because he scored a try in the 13th minute, converted, as well as scored a try in the 18th minute. And that was all of a sudden us, 19-0 up within 20 minutes. It's always difficult once you're 19-0 down to compete. You can't take your 3-pointers, for example. You've got to try and be a bit more expansive. You've got to try and be positive. And Japan were just under so much pressure at set piece. The Boks were looking good from scrum time. They were looking good at line-out with the maul. They were carrying well. They looked a big threat in the air as well. That aerial game is so good at the moment from the Boks. And a big worry, and this is probably one of the most significant events, Oxenchair off in the 90th minute. Gerstner come on. Oxenchair looks like he's done something to his knee. Very, very worrying if you're a Bok fan, because he is arguably one of our top 5 most important players. And if he's not involved next week against France, that is a massive loss. So hopefully Rassie will give us a bit of an update on the situation in the press conference a bit later, but that was probably the only downside of the game, is that injury doesn't look good. There was then a yellow card after a penalty try. Not that we really actually managed to make a count, to be perfectly honest. In fact, it took another yellow card before we actually got over. We can see there the bomb squad, inverted commas, Kwaka Smith, Andre Estes, and Wilco Louw, Jan Krobler, all coming on in the 45th minute. Bang, 2 minutes later, Wilco Louw goes over. A very good try as well, in fairness. And Sasha with the conversion. Then Japan got their solid try in the 53rd minute, where Yoshitaka Yazaki was caught off guard, to be perfectly honest. It was a penalty tap and go, and he basically tapped it, ran 2 meters and dove for the touchline, try line rather, and there was just nobody really there to stop him. But then we started to cook. Kurt Lawrence in the 58th minute, converted by Martin Liebach. Andre Estes actually had a more try disallowed, where he came around the corner and dove over. Would have been the nicest try in terms of him coming on at flank and doing that full sort of transformation. That was chalked off. But this was also a forced try, to be perfectly honest. It was face play, and he came on the angle and wrestled a couple players over. So it was a very good try for him to score. Martin Liebach then added another one. Kurt Lawrence try number 2 in the 67th minute, and it will update. But Jesse Creel went over there as well. And that was that. It was a very one-sided affair. In the first half, probably a bit sloppier from both sides. It was very wet at the end of the day, and you can see that Jesse Creel the try in the 79th minute. So it was wet, and the conditions definitely played some sort of role. And I think I'm almost quite impressed with the fact that we adapted to the conditions so well. In the first half, we went to the boot. We'll see it in a bit, hopefully, a lot. And it worked. It really did work. But if you look at the overview and stuff like that, it was just the possession dominated, carries dominated, tackles made. In fact, if you go to the stats, it shows a very one-sided game. 9 tries to 1. 120 carries, well over 500 meters run. I mean, that's insane. And especially for a Bok team to be running 400, 500 meters in a game is mental. 8 clean breaks, 11 offloads. We're getting the ball to players in gaps, and that's what's contributing to those meters gained. It's not just Arcus Neyman as well. You know, it's a lot of players who are bringing this offload game to their game and making those offloads and contributing in that way consistently as well. So it's very, very exciting. And more pass, for example, more possession. Defense-wise, Japan will be, 32 tackles missed is not a good stat at the end of the day. They did have to try and make a lot of tackles, in fairness. The turnovers in the first half were a lot better. Japan, a couple of turnovers on the ground, and that was just being a bit quicker. If we look at the stats over here, 2 lines lost of the 20 from the box, not dreadful, but we also won a couple of frustrating losses there. Scrums were, 100%, 1 scrum penalties as well. No issues to report at scrum time. We continued to dominate. Less penalties as well, no cards as well, so got kind of that through pretty cleanly. And then if we look at the kicking there, 7 conversions. Marnie Lebok was 4 from 4 off the tee, and Sasha, I believe, was 3 from 5. No penalty goals and the likes of that. But just an all-round dominant performance. The concern will be the oxen chair injury, because a lot of people are saying, why did he have to play? The problem was availability of other players, inverted commas, and, being outside the test window and the likes of that. But at the end of the day, it was exactly what we needed. We got the hit out. So we got players playing, and it would have been a nice. I don't think it'll be a massive physical. I don't think players will wake up tomorrow feeling that sore, maybe tired, because I think they did have to run around, and that's obviously going to take a bit of recovery. But I don't think it was one of those games where we had to play at such a high level consistently that we're going to be fatigued next week, and that for me is probably one of the biggest positives. The fact that I don't think it took a lot out of us. So I think we'll be okay come next week. It also gives us confidence. You go and put 61 points on. I mean, we've been scoring over 40 points in the last 4 games. So the confidence going into next week will be high. France will be watching that game going, there's a lot to try and pick apart here. The high ball game. Ethan Hooker, very good in the air. We saw Moyne Liebok getting in the air. We saw Kurtley Arnson getting in the air. We saw Franco Moster getting in the air. The breakdown. Malcolm Marx had turnovers today. Jasper Wiese had turnovers today. Quacker Smith had turnovers today. The scrum was very good. And you'll be bringing back a Thomas Tutoy next week. You might be missing an oxen chair, which would be huge if it is. But Thomas Tutoy is there next week at a tight end point of view. I don't think it was exactly important. You'll bring back an Evan Etzebeth next week. You'll bring back a Peter Steph Tutoy next week. The lineouts look good. Just the 2 lost. So that was much better from a Malcolm Marx point of view. His lineouts were pretty good. And I think Jan Kobler was at least one of the 2 lost lineouts. Malcolm Marx might have been the other one. So that's where I think there's just so many positives, is the fact that there was no real areas of concern. And when there aren't areas of concern, you're sitting there going, well, that's all the boxes ticked. And that for me is the biggest takeaway from this game. So for me, very, very, very happy with what I saw. Let me know what you guys thought of the game. Let me know in the comments.